Mimi, Mimi no, Mimi, nos vamos a casa. Mimi, es tu bebé, es tu hijo. ¿Lo reconoces? Es tu bebé. Mimi, Mimi, no, Mimi, no, Mimi, no.
What's up, horror fiends? Your boy Ricky Grimes is back. Three corners of horror, Horror Fiend TV. We got a very special episode today with a very special guest. Please, before we continue, please like, share, subscribe to this channel. We would highly appreciate that. First, let's not waste any more time here. We have Angel here from the YouTube channel Voices from the Mausoleum. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's good. Better than me some days. Yeah.
So we want to say thank you for coming on and
thanks for having me. Yeah.
Episode. So yeah. And you want to introduce yourself to our viewers real quick?
Yeah. So my name is Angel. I'm from my channel's name is Voices from the Mausoleum. It's a horror YouTube channel. I kind of on accident, I think, met JR on Instagram, and I had posted, or one of us had posted about the movie we're going to be talking about, and that's kind of how we ended up here. Was because we both want to talk about it.
Oh yeah,
that's what we do here. We all love horror, so
yeah.
All right. Next we got JR. What's up, son? How you doing?
Hey man, another our first zombie movie, which is pretty incredible. After all the many episodes we've done, our first zombie.
Yeah.
But is this one like a zombie, or is it like I don't know, 28 months later, Latin America?
What up, Joe? We're not in Canada. Where we at?
We are not in Canada, actually. Isn't it Argentina?
Yeah,
we're in Argentina. Yes, we're in Argentina, and this is a zombie movie.
Yes.
So I'm ready to see if this is going to be a bite or if it's just going to make me catch something.
Oh, come on. Anyway, I see what you're trying to do, man. All right. Well, what are we talking about today? We are talking about the 2022 Shudder exclusive. It's called Virus-32, and this film is going to be directed by Gustavo Hernandez. Guys, quickly, we're going to go around the room. What did you think? We're going to start with our guest, Angel. What you thought of the film?
There were a few things that I did like, but I think primarily it was things I didn't like. It was not super original in my opinion, so I was kind of left feeling underwhelmed.
Yeah, how about you, JR? What you thought about this? I know we and you always go back and forth on this topic, so this is going to be interesting.
Me and Rick have a massive conversation versus this type of zombie movie, but I'll tell you one thing I did love in this movie: the opening sequence, that one shot, nonstop shot where you said you have the old lady wants to feed the birds. She walks, into she feeds the birds. She preps to feed the birds. She goes to see her husband who's standing with a broken glass, bloody nose, transitions to outside with the father talking to his son, swirls back around to where we meet our main character, which is Iris, played by Paula Silva. And she's just going through her morning motions. And then we meet her daughter, Tata, which is played by Pilar Garcia, and you kind of get a notion already what kind of mother she really is. So here we have a flawed character. So this whole time they're following just one shot. It goes right outside, transitions to an overhead shot where we start seeing the chaos going around before these two even know what's going on. I mean, I did love that opening sequence. I was like pumped when I saw that, but I agree. This movie has some flaws. But that does have a lot of things that are actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. I see you, Joe. You smiling, Joe. You smiling.
All right. So for one thing, Paula is she play Iris?
Iris is Paula.
So Paula, she remind me of Sophie Turner.
Yes.
From Game of Thrones.
Oh, geez. I'm glad
you got time.
So literally we're watching this. I looked at Adam. I'm like, doesn't she look like Sansa? And there was one scene where it was literally, he's like, yep, right there. So I'm mixed on this one, honestly. I'm gonna wait till we talk to see if maybe, because it's happened before where we've all talked and I changed towards the end, but I was a little like okay with it. This movie has its sections where I'm sure we're all gonna bring this up. It reminded me of 28 Days, which is my favorite zombie movie. So we'll see. Like I'm gonna wait till I talk to you guys, because for me, I was a little mixed. There's the subplots kind of became a problem for me. But other than that, like I said, I'm gonna wait till we get to the end to see if hopefully you guys can make me change my perspective now.
Yeah, me, I'm not mixed. I liked it. I'm not gonna. I hate runners. I'm not a fan of runners. I could appreciate it. Like the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead was fun. It started that. Well, it didn't start it, but it popularized it within zombies.
It did though.
And but too many people took that and just killed it, ran it to the ground. But what I liked about this film, it took that zombie apocalypse, but it put it on a smaller scale, much smaller scale. Like when Jared mentioned the tracking shot in the beginning, you could tell that it was a lot of CGI in there. But the fact that they attempted that and they crammed all that in there for a relatively low budget, and they kept it small. It was a zombie apocalypse movie. It was only about a mother trying to get to her daughter in a gym. They kept it real tight, and it's different. I'm not gonna lie. It's a different film from what you were used to watching when it comes to zombies. They're not zombies, okay? Don't say the Z word. These are crazy people.
Infected.
And I dug the fact that they bookended this film with that one guy who kept chasing him throughout the entire film. And he was the final zombie, if you want to call him that. This is
infected.
Even I can't get it right. But no, I'm not saying it was the greatest film ever. I just didn't hate it. I think for the runtime, what, hour and 30 minutes, something.
An hour and a half. Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was different. It was small. It wasn't a bunch of characters. It wasn't survivors getting killed one by one. It was just a girl trying to get to her daughter. And the scale, and I appreciate the small scale. Even the storytelling, it was a small in scale. In the zombie apocalypse, there's going to be smaller stories like this, not just a bunch of survivors getting together. So I could do that. What were you saying, John?
But in the shot, what I was telling Adam, especially once you got the view from above, I love we're in a time that you can use drones to film, and you don't even hear the whirling. Because I told Adam, you get it literally looks like what you would look like from above. So. You guys both brought it up. I did have in my notes, but I wanted to see if you guys were going to mention that. But the beginning, especially when you got the street view, it was beautiful shot in the beginning. You know how I feel about beautifully shot movies. If you can't deliver on the other parts, you're just shooting a beautiful movie.
Pros and cons. Every film's got them. No exception here. We're going to start with Angel. What did you like and what did you not like about this film? It sounds like this is going to be interesting because we got different perspectives here.
So. Some different thoughts. So I do agree that one of the strengths for this was some of the shots that were taken. I also really appreciated the way that it opened. And there's other moments where they do these close-up shots of these like really kind of intense moments that kind of drive home your anxiety and you're kind of like feeling like you're the one in the middle of all of this. So I thought it was shot really well. I thought those were some of the strengths. And then I think the other things that I really liked is I also appreciated the smaller scale. I think sometimes in not zombie movies, when they make these giant storylines, that's when they start getting a little lost. Like you get too overwhelmed. There's too many things to keep up with. And then there's so much to focus on that everything is just mediocre and flat. This was a very just linear path of a story about a mom who has some things that she's dealing with from her past, some guilt and some anger at herself. And she's put this distance between her and her daughter. And now it's life or death. And I really liked that part too. I think the gore and stuff was pretty effective. I didn't have any issues with stuff like that. The way that the infected moved, I thought was also really well done. It's all of that stuff is kind of typical for what you would expect from most zombie movies, even the lower budget. You can do so much with that stuff now. As far as my cons, so I actually did not appreciate that it was so much like 28 Days. It really got under my skin. And there is this one part when it zooms in on her and that music intensifies and it's this like kind of just weird camera angle, and it is like for the next like I don't know minute and a half 2 minutes of the movie it's straight from 28 Days Later, and I hated that so much. I was so angry. I had to pause it and like take a break and come back to it. Because 28 Days Later is one of my favorites as well. I'm a huge fan of Cillian Murphy. I love everything about that movie. And so I was like so pissed. I was like, really? That's straight from 28 Days Later. And I think the only other thing that I found annoying, I also didn't like our little side quest that we were on. It took away from the focal point of the story, and I don't think it added anything. The stuff with Love, I think his name was Luis. And yeah. And I hate when they do that whole like, no, but I'm trying to save my kid or I'm trying to save my wife. And I'm like, nope, it's time to cut some ties and like move on. You're putting other people at risk, including yourself. Yeah, I hate it. I hate that so much. And so that's like one of the not zombie tropes that I hate. And so that was in there. So that really got under my skin. And that part took way too long. And the only other real complaint I had that's like it's not even that big, but it just kind of got under my skin was that whole like smoke sequence or whatever in the pool. I was like, why are we doing this? We just made everything so much more complicated than it needed to be. And I hated that part so much. And did it make for, like a scary moment where you're kind of like, oh, because you can't see anything? Okay, sure. But could you have done that in a different way? Probably. Yeah. And then one other pro that I did have, I really liked the 32-second thing, the break. That unique moment of like, okay, we get like a break from the insanity. Because I don't recall anything that's ever done that before.
No, that's original.
Yeah, so I really appreciate it. I like that part a lot too.
Good points there. Yeah,
I'm gonna jump in on the little thing on the because both of you guys have mentioned something in one of our last reviews, how they show something and it's gonna come into play later on.
Yeah,
Chekhov's gun, man.
yeah. So when because that smoke scene, that was my whole problem with that scene, is because you had that scene beforehand when she shows all these pictures with it. And I'm like, this is going to come into play later.
Yes.
And when that happened, I literally thought of both you guys. I'm like, oh, they're both going to say, this is going to come to play later on. So I actually knew that you guys, and it's true, because as soon as it happened, I'm like, it's exactly what they said happens. You get a focus on this one thing that later on is going to come into play.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that, Angel.
Yeah, what's up with you, JR? You're eager, I see you.
Well, you know what? It's funny. It's funny because
I
took that whole pool scene so differently. I took it at one point. It was like this was the moment that they realized they fucked up, because it was like an act of desperation that they actually made such a mistake.
The filmmakers or the characters?
No, the characters with the
characters.
whole smoke. Where they were so desperate to disappear that they just did it so wrong. I'm sorry. I would have sacrificed the wife. She's almost dead.
Yeah, just on her own.
I would have sacrificed. She was making all the noise anyways. But for me, I mean, I didn't mind the Lewis character, but where I think they screwed up the Lewis character is I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about the scene where she goes into like the boiler room and there's like that child inside the furnace. That I wanted to know more of that, because that moment was actually pretty. I think that moment was the most where you felt the most empathy for her, because here she is, a terrible mom. Let's be honest, she's a terrible mom. And the fact that she thought that was her child there, and it was at that point where she realized, what she's been missing this whole time. And the fact that her journey was now, I need to, even though we knew it wasn't her, and let's be honest, we knew it wasn't her, but we knew she was going to go search for her. But that's where, I didn't mind the Lewis character too much. I mean, the whole wife thing, I think I would have kind of got rid of her a little bit. But I do like the fact that they did something similar to Dawn of the Dead, where she had birth, but the baby wasn't infected, which I thought that was kind of cool. The fact that it raises the whole point is, all right, so are children immune to this virus because the mother had the virus? Yeah. So they had some interesting things. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 32 seconds. But as far as what I didn't like about it, I kind of hated the ending, because here you got the last zombie coming at her. He beats the crap out of her.
He beats the hell out of her, man.
And then the fact that obviously he has blood on himself, and she should be bloody, but she doesn't get infected. So that right there, I thought it was a little bit too much of how do you really or not get infected?
What are the rules, though? They never really established the rules in the film at all.
Yeah.
We knew it was the 32 seconds to get infected, but for example, in the beginning where the old man, we know he's infected because he has blood coming out of his nose. He's sitting there in shock, but how do you really get infected? And that kind of pissed me off. I was like, you started doing good and you ruined this moment. And then the fact that I thought one cool thing I liked about it too is the fact that when the zombie went into the water, he drowned. And then all of a sudden at the end,
and then later,
so why'd you do that? Just leave it at
leave it.
Drown.
Well, hold on. At that point, he's a zombie. He was infected before.
He died.
And now he died.
See, I don't like that.
Now he's a zombie.
Yeah,
So now you get the virus and a zombie in one.
Yeah, I don't like that. I was like, just leave him drown. Leave it at that. That's good. You separate yourself from the rest of the, the movies, and bam, you freaking bring him back to life.
Yeah.
Joey, but okay.
All right. Well, so for me, I was waiting to see if you guys were going to mention it. My favorite scene in this movie was the pool scene, actually.
Wow, everyone likes the pool scene.
I do. Well, here's the thing. I mean, like we've talked about before, like I've almost drowned a couple of times. So just seeing the fact that he pushed her in there and then they're sitting underwater. But then as I'm watching, I'm like, they've been holding their breath for a while. Like I haven't seen a single blurb of air come out of you. Nothing. So that scene was good, but I nitpicked on the fact that
it takes you out, right? That little
because they're sitting there like floating in there, and you don't see a little like nothing. However, but because of my fear of water and being drowned, and then having somebody come after you, like when you try to get away from bees, you jump into water. So it's kind of like the same thing. So I actually did like that one. As a parent, my con, this fucking movie took forever for her to find her daughter. And the subplots, like basically, if I would have ran into Lewis, I would have knocked Lewis out. And then when he woke up, he would have found his wife, Mimi, tied up into that same chair with a knife through her throat saying, you need to tell me where my daughter is right now, or I'm going to kill her. I mean, the subplot just took me out of there. Yeah. I get what they were maybe trying to do, just add a little humanity in here. It just took me out. Like I looked at Adam, I'm like, what movie are we watching again? Because I thought this was a movie about zombies, and now we're dealing with a pregnancy thing. And that's my con. The whole subplots in this movie took you out from what you wanted to deliver.
And the 32-second bit was kind of cool. The only thing I didn't like about it was she figured that out pretty quickly just by looking
really
at
fast.
one infected do it, and then she automatically comes to the conclusion that's the rules, that's how it works. But that's pretty cool. It's like they're on a high and they go through the sugar rush, then they got to come down a bit. Then I don't know. It added a little bit of drama, especially at the end. And I did like at the end with that one infected. Like I said, it was like a bookend. It was kind of creepy. Those kept beating his fists together, and the sound was pretty cool.
Well, and I thought that he was actually what I thought was he was trying to mimic, because remember that the code that the mom gave her to, if I knock on the door, she gave her a code, right? And then when he showed up, he was
about that.
Yeah, you didn't No,
you're right. I didn't. Yeah.
So he gave she gave her a code, and all of a sudden this guy shows up, and his clapping was.
I gotta watch that part again because
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it was kind of coded. So you're like, oh shit! It's like, so did this guy hear this?
Yeah.
They're
infected. They're not zombies. There ain't no Z word.
Right, they're infected.
Bad parenting in this film all around by Iris. Even from the very beginning, she takes her daughter to work. She has to, but she leaves her by herself in a gym. Instead of taking her with you or be with me, don't leave my side. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not a parent, but I know better than that. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah. That was again, this film tested my patience with the animals here.
I knew it did.
The first 5 minutes had the bird,
and then later the cat.
I laughed. I'm sorry, I laughed.
I texted you guys when I got to the cat part. I'm like, Rick had a hard time with this movie. I just got to the cat part.
In case you don't know, I'm an animal lover. Just things I hate in films is animals and children being hurt in films just for a shock value. Unless it works, because it could work in some films. There's exceptions. But here, it was kind of funny because I'm like, just eat the cat. Don't beat it up. What are you doing? You're wasting it.
Well, that was the whole thing, though, is that they didn't need to eat anything. They didn't need to eat anything. It was all about getting out some aggression.
That's what I like.
Anger.
And once the anger, once they got that out, then they had that 32 seconds of calmness. That they got to feel before they had to feed that again. That's basically what the movie was about basically feeding your calmness.
other than the subplot, I don't want to beat a dead horse anymore. I think that's enough with that. It's pretty much the whole Luis as a character was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen that subplot before in other films, so
many times.
yeah, I'm over it. But overall, yeah, those are pretty much my pros and my cons. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. I thought it was kind of in the middle, and I appreciated it trying different things in the film. But let's kind of digress a little bit from the film, but we're gonna stick with the zombie genre here. The debate. I hate runners. If you know me, you know that. But let's compare the two, because this, if done right, runners can be a threat. Like in this film, 28 Days, awesome, amazing.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, it was okay. I don't like it when they add all the velociraptor screeches and when they're too intelligent and stuff like that. It loses me. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Angel, we're gonna start with you. I know the least about you, so this is going to be interesting. So let's hear it. What's your thoughts?
Runners are shamblers, right?
Runners are the
runners.
Shamblers are the ones
Shamblers are the slow ones.
They drag.
Right.
They walk slowly.
Shamblers
I think it's kind of
zombies, essentially.
Right. I think it's kind of like a two-part. I think because like in real life, I think I'd be fine if they were shamblers. I'd be good with that. If that really happened, you have time to get away. They're not as big of a threat. But I think for a movie, I do prefer runners. Sometimes I feel the same way about the Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. That wasn't like a big fan favorite of mine anyway. I like what he does with those types of films, but it just wasn't like this, like, great redo for me. But I think that 28 Days Later did it really well. Like you said, with the excessive noise, that doesn't exist in 28 Days Later. There's very human motions in the running in 28 Days Later, which I appreciate. Whenever it's too glitchy is the only way I can think to describe it, but kind of like in Train to Busan, the movements are very like excessive and over the top.
Very kinetic.
But they're still in some sequences, they're still very human.
Yep.
And sometimes when you get runners, it's like, there's no way, like in World War Z, where they just like these, like, I don't even know what's happening most of that when they're just like stacking on top of each other and all that craziness. But I do think when they're done correctly and people take the time to make them more terrifying simply because of the speed, and they don't try to add all these other things, I think that makes for, in my own opinion, for zombie movies, I think it makes them more unsettling, because I definitely am not a runner. So if this happens and these were what we had to deal with, I'm out. Like the first one that busted in my door, I'm dead. So I think like, that makes them more just a little bit more terrifying speed. And I think too, like the way I've always rationalized runners is that if you're having a rage virus, or if you're a zombie, like died and came back and you're running, like you don't have the same feeling. It's like people who get on PCP or these other drugs that you're just so amped, like even though it hurts your body, you can't really tell. And I feel like in those kind of stories where it's like the runners, these zombies or people infected or running, they can't really feel the limitations of their own body the way that they would if they were coherent and normal. So just that's kind of how I've always like made it make sense, I guess. But yeah, I think real life shamblers, movies, I prefer runners.
How about you, Joe? What's up, Joe? Let's go to you.
Me, come on. I'm Night of the Living Dead. So, of course, it's going to be the Shamblers. What I actually did like about these, it seems that the Shamblers had a little bit sense of awareness and how they were searching for things. I found that to be interesting. I found that's where they were trying to pull away from the way that other movies have done things. So it showed their awareness as they were looking for things, because it wasn't like the hunger or like the scent of, it was just like a natural, something's here, and they're opening it up. So I like the Shamblers. I'm going to, on my closing thoughts, discuss the runners part. On that.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna keep it brief. Shamblers are the ultimate, like, to me, they're scary because, again, they look more realistic as far as like they don't screech, they're not smart, they're just instinct. They just walk towards you. Of course, you could handle one or two maybe, but when there's a lot of them and they overwhelm you,
that's true.
It adds more storytelling beats because you're not constantly running from point A to point B. It's a lot more time to breathe with the characters. But a good example in Zack Snyder's film, when the runners, the zombies are running towards our characters and they're going up the stairs. They lock themselves. and they're waiting for one guy, and they're gonna close the door behind them. The zombies go all up the stairs, and as soon as they get to the one hero character, they look at each other. The zombies just stop. They all just stop and start looking at them, and they start slowly creeping up the stairs. Like, wait a minute, they're not supposed to be thinking. They don't show fear or empathy or not. They're machines. They're eating machines. What are you doing? Come on. And that just takes me completely out of it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of zombie I don't like. And this film, it works. 28 days later, they originated that. They killed it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if done right, I could appreciate it. But a lot of the B movies, they just go with the screeching and the high, like you mentioned, Angel. It's very kinetic and like a music video. Just so much like going on. It's just, it takes you out of it. So Shamblers for me all the way. I prefer my zombies scary, and if they're gonna run at me, they're gonna break their bones.
All right, for me and Rick actually had this discussion plenty of times. Out of everybody here, I'm probably the least zombie fan, to be honest. And because for me, it's like it always bothered me that the Shamblers, if they walk up the steps, technically, their legs should come loose and they shouldn't even be able to climb steps and stuff. But actually, there's a book out called "Do Zombies Dream of Undead Sheep" by Timothy Verstein and Bradley Wojtek, where they break down the difference between why you have the runners and why you have the Shamblers. So in their thing, they took it because they're neuroscientists. So they took it at the point is all these ones that are runners get infected a lot quicker and their turn is a lot faster. And for example, if somebody is in cardiac arrest and they're brought back to life, the quicker you bring them back to life, the more they keep up their brain, the less brain damage they suffer. So that's why this movie, when I was watching this movie, it's like, all right, now I understand why they're looking through doors. They're opening this because they have that memory still in place.
Still there.
Yeah.
Now, the Shamblers, being that they've been dead for so long and they brought back, their brain is totally damaged. So they don't have all the memory skills, nothing. So that's why their characters are usually just wandering around, slow, doing nothing because they don't have that memory still intact. So I watched that video first and then I watched this movie. So everything kind of made sense to me. I was like, all right,
appreciate it a bit more because
because now I understood a little bit more about, and it's been the biggest. I mean, this is probably the most divisive topic between runners and Shamblers. It is because you take majority of the old school zombie fans are going to take the slow walking zombies. The newer generation, because of World War Z, because of 28 Days Later, they're going to take the fast runners. But for me, understanding why the way they talked about the book, I was like, all right, kind of appreciate that. And I could see why runners are the way they are. I could appreciate why they're the way they are. And at the same time, look at the Shamblers, like, all right, I feel sorry for you. But at the same time, if I have a bunch of Shamblers coming at me, I'm getting in a car, I'm running all of them over. Because that's the only, my knock is on the movies, like you guys mentioned, Dawn of the Dead. I did not like those at all because even when they threw the canister and the guy picked it up, he's holding it. I'm like, come on. Seriously. You wouldn't you're a zombie. You're not going to think of picking that up. But for me, I like runners. What made me like runners even more is when they were breaking it down on Zombie Land. And that made me appreciate runners a lot more. But that's for me. I like runners all the way.
All right, guys, let's go into our closing thoughts. Let's rate the film 1 through 5. Tell us what you thought overall. And if you got any notes you want to go over, now is the time. We're going to start with a very special guest, Angel. Let's hear it. What you got?
So I went into this thinking I was going to give this movie like a 2.5 or a 3. But I will say you pointed out a few things, all three of you did, that it kind of made me think about it a little bit differently. I think the thing about the hands, I can't get that out of my head now. I feel like I need to go back and rewatch it.
I love that so much.
It's I really didn't pick up, and I've watched it twice now and I didn't even notice. So I think I'm going to bump up my rating, and I'm probably going to give it like a 3.5 out of 5. The sequence where she's going down that hallway and we're in between our 32-second like time frame. That's very reminiscent of like either playing Silent Hill or when you've seen the movie Silent Hill, where she's going through with the flashlight and the nurses. Yeah. And she can't use the flashlight because it'll attract the nurses and they'll, slit her throat. That's kind of what it reminded me of. So I forgot about that scene, but that was kind of a scene that I did really like. I think it's overall, I think it's a decent watch. I think having it be on Shudder and you don't have to pay for it if you like zombie movies, if you like horror movies and you don't know about zombie movies, then I think it's probably worth at least a watch. And you can kind of, it's got some things that I love about zombie movies, and it's got some things that I hate about zombie movies. It's kind of a very interesting, like, mixed bag.
I appreciate the movie. I kind of like what they were going for. A lot of similarities to 28 Days Later. They had a chance to separate themselves a little bit more from 28 Days, which I think they missed the boat on. I'm going to do my usual, how would I change the movie differently? I think where you had too many sequences where it felt like it was just fillers, that if we had her having flashbacks of what made her a bad mother, why she's searching for her daughter, I think it would have elevated the film a little bit more, because now you're filling those gaps with basically trying to explain to the audience why she's such a crappy mom and how now she wants to be like a hero. But for me, I appreciated the movie. I love, me with the lighting and cinematography. I love all the red lighting. It came at the right time. It came at the most times where you had either empathy or fear, because you had the red lights, and then that's where prior to that, she launched all her freaking rats to go in that direction. And poor rats, they all got massacred. And the one guy holding the rat just had me dying. But it's just way.
Damn it, that's right. They kill rats in this film.
A bunch of rats.
Yeah.
A bunch.
I said you weren't going to like this movie. There's a whole lot of animal.
A lot of animals. Yeah.
It's probably I think Jared's got an agenda against me, because lately the last 4 movies, there's been some kind of animal cruelty in it. But
push your buttons.
Beelzebub didn't have animal cruelty.
It's push your buttons.
It didn't, huh? Did it?
No.
It was children.
Oh,
Children.
Animals.
Yeah.
You should. Yeah. Well, that's even worse.
For me, I'm gonna give it 3.5. I do think it's a movie worth watching. If you're a fan of 20 Days Later, I don't think you should turn away from it, because it does have some good things about it. And maybe if they have a sequel, because they're gonna have a sequel, because the way it ended, hopefully they fix everything they messed up in the first one. 3.5.
This movie was okay. It had some good suspenseful moments. It really did. There were some good, really moments where you're sitting there like holding your breath. But the one scene that killed me was when after you mentioned her getting through the hallway and they're all chasing her and they're all running fast. At that point, you draw the 28 Days Later and World War Z comparisons. The scene was great, but again, obviously it didn't fulfill me. The end obviously left you with a sequel. If you guys aren't going to expect that we're going to be talking about a sequel, but it left you open for
elaborate real quickly on the end, just the very final few shots.
So when you get to the end and she finally opens up, you see people basically fleeing on their boats, and you see boats and yachts on fire. Not just that, but you see Montevideo on fire. Actually really crappy CGI on the city on fire, because it just really looked like really blurry smoke. So that's my little nitpick on that end scene. But yeah, it left it open, like where people were trying to get away. So you saw them hopefully trying to make it onto one of those boats. I'm not a filmmaker, but I'm thinking that's kind of where they're, because as she's looking out and there's boats getting out, okay, we got to make it there. So there's your sequel. The subplots fucking took me out of the movie, honestly. Like, I hated the subplots. It dragged it out. I'm a parent, and I would have been to my child within 30 minutes. This was an hour-and-a-half movie. So even if you put it in real time, then you got to add about almost 3 hours. I would have been to my child way before that. I would have threatened fucking Lewis. I would have gotten my child. And I said I was going to wait. I was going to give this a 3.5, but after talking to you guys, I'm actually lowering it. I'm giving it a 3.
3 was, that's my score as well. It's not 3 out of 5 is not bad. Okay?
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
People always laugh and they'd be like, how can you give a 3 out of 3? Like, dude, that's more than half. Like, that's
You're at the midway point.
But for me, like, it's not my favorite type of film, but it did enough to really make me be connected to the film in a sense. I would have graded it higher if Iris would have died. If the one zombie that went toe to toe would have actually killed her, and her daughter was the sole survivor and somehow got out, then you wonder, damn, is she gonna be okay on her own? Like, what's gonna happen to her? It leaves you thinking about the possibilities instead of thinking, oh, okay, here comes the obligatory sequel with all the CGI in the end. But it could have been better in that sense. But I didn't hate it. I love that one infected guy with homeboy. Like, I don't know what it was about that guy.
I'm telling you, he went.
I don't know.
Watch it again. He went when he did it. He knew the code.
I gotta look deep more into that character, if anything. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3. I was surprised. I liked it. I'm not gonna lie. All right, guys. All right, that's going to be it for that portion of the video. I'm going to throw it to my man, JR. What's good, son? Let's take this.
It's time to put our guest on the spot with a couple of questions. So, question number 1, throw a generic one out there. What got you into the horror genre?
So, my dad is like a super big horror and like cheesy sci-fi movie guy. Like it's I grew up around it, but I think my really big like punch in the gut into horror was when I was about 3 or 4 years old. I saw the movie Poltergeist. It's quite literally my first memory of life. I don't remember obviously watching the whole movie because I was really little, but I remember being so scared that my sister got in trouble for showing it to me. Like I remember that like playing out.
Poltergeist. Wow. Well, how old were you when you saw it? You said 3 or 4?
I was like, to have remembered it, I must have been maybe at least like 4. But but by the time I was 4, it had already been out for.
That's a good movie to start with.
And it's also one of the only franchises that I saw consistently. I know there's only a couple, but it was one that like, so after I'd seen the first one, my siblings showed me the second, and so it was just one that I kind of grew up on. And then, like I said, I just from there it went into when I was a teenager, I was a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, like. Massive Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. It's like I go through this tangent with like anytime I try to explain the love that I have. So like I have both of the video games, I have both the soundtrack, I have the cross necklace Angel gives her in the first episode of season 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth. I have all 7 seasons. I've got Spike's autograph on a comic book. Like I'm super obsessed with Buffy, even like today. So I grew up watching that, and then between that and like I said, my dad was like is just a huge like horror movie, sci-fi kind of junkie. And I kind of fell into it, watching it, spending time with him. And it just turned into something that, I just really loved it. And then now it's funny because I used to watch a lot of other stuff, and then becoming a content creator, as I'm sure you guys are aware, that becomes like the only thing that you have time to watch. There's, have you seen this new series? Don't have time. Like it's, and it's fine because like, it's pretty much all I care to invest my time in watching for the most part. And it just kind of grew. And then the older I got, the more obscure the horror became. I saw Nosferatu when I took German in high school, and it was like a free day. So that's what we did, was we watched Nosferatu. So just subtle introductions to like classics and more, and some more like obscure stuff. And then when I saw Blair Witch when I was 20, how old was I when I saw that? 20 or 21. And that was my introduction to found footage, which would go on later to become my favorite subgenre of horror. And so it's just these interesting like milestones throughout my life that have just been, it's been like so constant from the time I was way too young to be invested in horror to like now where it's my everyday, every second,
Well, you mentioned Buffy. So Buffy, I love Buffy. Actually, when it came on FX on syndication, I programmed it, and I literally, before going to work, watched it over again. Like that was my morning. So actually, Vampire Diaries became the next Buffy. So are you more Vampire Diaries or Buffy?
I have seen 1 episode of Vampire Diaries.
So you're Buffy.
And that was enough to tell me that was not my next vampire.
Welcome to the crowd, then. It was not. It was supposed to be the replacement for Buffy. It was not.
Yeah, no, it's and I think I actually just shared something about this on Instagram. One of the best things about Buffy is people can, if you've never seen it before and you go back and watch it, it's so hokey now. Like there are these very big things that happen to her throughout the 7 seasons that the show is on that are just so monumental for character arc in a teen drama about vampires. Like, and it was crazy because so I got moved schools my freshman year, just like Buffy did. And so I was a Razorback for a short period of time. as was Buffy. I raised my sister for a short period of time when my mother wasn't in the picture, as did Buffy, you know, and I mean, short of dating vampires, we had a lot in common. And so it was just one of the, well, that's maybe a different show, but it's one of those things where it's like, you just think it's just so many parallels I felt. And she was just somebody that like got me through those times, you know.
Relate.
She's, yeah, my hero. Like, and the thing that I shared on Instagram was like, when she hears Angel and Giles she overhears them speaking about like how she's supposed to be killed. This is at the end of season 1. She's supposed to be killed by the master, and it's like the prophecy, and that's the only thing that can happen. And she tells him, I'm only 16, I don't want to die. And then when you get to the end of season 7 and she's going to fight like the first, and she's going into hell literally with all of these Uber vans, she says, you know, I'm gonna go into the mouth of hell and it's gonna choke on me. And talk about like story arc, like it's just, I can't even say enough. I get chills talking about it. I love Buffy.
So what was your favorite Buffy episode?
Okay, so I have a serious one and a silly one. My silly one is Once More with Feeling, the musical one. I loved that one. It was so fun. I loved it. And I love that. I can't think of the guy's name that came from Broadway to play the demon, but oh my God, he's like, I loved him so much. I don't know the demon,
but I know who she's talking about. I know you're talking about.
And
yes, I know you're talking about.
God, like that was such a stupid fun, but like also there was a lot going on because that's when Buffy comes back to life, and she hasn't told them that they ripped her out of heaven. Like none of her friends know this. And the moment when she says that, and it like pans and shows all of her friends, like my heart just like, oh, it's so good. And then my favorite serious episode is actually the one where she sacrifices herself to save her sister, Dawn, when she jumps off of the whatever
Glory.
into the portal and against Glory. Yeah. And actually Glory was like my least favorite season baddie. But it just went to show you like how much responsibility she took on, that she fought for so long when it came to her sister, and what it meant to not really be her sister, but be her sister, and like that whole story arc. Like I love the way that wrapped up for that ending. I thought was really good. And it's probably like, because I had such a close relationship with my sister, like I don't know, it just spoke to me. So that's like my favorite serious and my favorite not so serious. First of all, I have like I'm obsessed with Doug Jones, and he plays the lead gentleman in Hush, the big guy in the middle. And he plays like, I don't know if you guys are super familiar, but he plays like everything.
Yeah.
He was the pale man and the fawn in Pan's Labyrinth. He is Abe in Hellboy. He played
he's a legend. That's a legend.
He's so great.
Yeah.
He gives us skinny guys some justice.
So great. So do you guys know how he got his start? Like when he came to be like an actor and he wanted to do things, you know how he got his start?
No.
You know that really old school McDonald's commercial with that awful moon person?
Oh, they got the shades?
Yes, that's him. That's Doug Jones.
Oh no, I hated it.
Hey, oh my God.
That was his like step into, and he did this interview where like he talked about how like once word got around that, hey, there's this really tall awkward guy that will let you put whatever you want on him and he'll just work and do whatever you want. He got busy. Like so many people wanted to hire him for stuff. And of course he does a lot of work with like Del Toro and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I love Doug Jones. And actually
great actor.
I have to ask you this, if you're a Buffy fan, did you have a favorite love interest for Buffy?
I like Spike.
I do beat him up a lot.
Ow! Bloody hell! Ow!
Okay. All right. So my answer is like not a popular one. This is my last Buffy thing, I swear. I picked my favorite love interest was actually Riley, the human.
What part of the initiative?
Yes, yeah. Season 4.
He's cute.
So I liked him because I feel like he brought like a human piece to her life that she needed. Yes. And I feel like, I've left Buffy groups on Facebook over this argument. Like it's very serious, but no, it's
Diana Hill. Trust me.
No, but he's my favorite.
For human, because he was the human, I wasn't a fan of the storyline itself.
Okay, that's fair.
But I like Spike because Spike basically brought out in her a little bit more of what she needed to let go.
Yeah.
Whereas Angel started to bring it out, but Spike was the one that said, all right, you're the savior, but you can be naughty also.
Yeah, there's a darkness in you that it's okay to embrace a little
Yes.
bit.
Go
That
ahead.
speech he gives her at the end of season 7, when he's like, I know with perfect clarity. I won't recite the whole thing because I definitely know it by heart. But he says, like, I know with perfect clarity exactly who you are. I'm like, you know.
So the second question I have for you, now you mentioned you're a content creator. You want to let people know what exactly you're doing, the name of your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is called Voices from the Mausoleum, and it is quite literally like a hodgepodge of everything. So I have a couple different collaborations that I do, some podcast only episodes, some only YouTube episodes. I do interviews with like horror artists. I do let's plays for horror games because I love those, and I share them even though some people don't like watching them. That's okay. And I've done some special effects stuff. I'm still very early days in that, so I'm learning still, but I've done some of that stuff. A lot of movies, obviously, because I'm like a movie junkie. That's kind of like my thing. A lot of my, I guess, like growth over the last, like, I would say like 6 months or so has been because I've been kind of embraced on Twitter by this like indie horror writing community. So every other Saturday I do like Spooky Saturday stories where I read shorts by authors that have given me permission to read their stories.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I have to say this too, just speaking on the horror community in general, I didn't know as a content creator, like a video creator, how I was going to be kind of welcomed as far as the writing world, because I'm not like a giant reader. I read, but I don't have a lot of time to just read all the time. And it's just been such a great experience, like so rewarding. I've met some of the coolest people. So I mean, my channel is pretty much, it's everything. Like, I do a lot of interviews with people for their influential horror movies, whether they're in the genre or not. So not necessarily just authors, but just people who really like horror movies and just movies that influenced them over the years and why they picked those. And I mean, some of my other collaboration, we break down my horror bestie breakdown that I do with my friend Tasha. We take movies and we watch some. I think we're going to start doing like a really bad movie once a month because we just did Rotten Tail for Easter.
Rick, you better hurry up because she's gonna jump before you. Hurry up, Rick.
I just brought up the idea to Joe.
Hurry up.
You should do it. No, do it. Yeah.
He wants to do the schlock.
Well, not that movie in particular. I'm just saying like that
but just
idea.
The concept doing it. Yeah, no, you should.
I think schlock B movies, like some of the worst. Charles was on our show once.
Yes.
Charles was his name. He said, as a horror fan, even the bad horror movies you could appreciate. Like, but people think, oh, that's crap. I can still enjoy a bad horror movie because I trash you. It doesn't mean I don't find nothing to enjoy about it. So
Evil Dead has bad CGI and special effects, and you watch it now and you still appreciate it and love it.
That's so true.
Because the passion that went into that film.
It is kind of schlock, but at the same time, you get past that.
No, schlock is like street trash.
No.
No, it is.
Like,
however, I look at schlock, by the way.
It was funny because one night Rick was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch this movie called The Seed." I'm like, "Oh my god, that movie's so terrible. That movie's so bad."
I should have took your warning, man.
It's so bad.
Like, oh my god, it was so terrible.
It was bad.
Yeah, Rotten Tail we thought would be fun to do because it was like Easter recently, and so my collaboration partner, she picked 4 movies that were all on Shudder, so we'd be able to stream them easily.
Which one?
And it was it was Bunny Day was one, Bunny Man I think was one, Rotten Tail, and Peter
Contil.
There's another one like that. That was the one I wanted to watch because the line under it was like, you're gonna have a bad hair day, and it was like HARE. I was like, oh my god. Rotten Tail was a shit show of a movie though, and it to date is my second most listened to episode because that's a podcast only. We don't do video for those. And like people love it. It made for a very funny show. Like because I told Tasha, I was like, I think this is the most times I've said the word dick in anything that I've had to do because of its relevance to what was going on in the movie. So yeah.
Cool. All right, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's time to put her on the spot. What is your top 10 horror list movie of all time?
Okay, so I made on because I
just speak
changed
for mine.
Hey, that's what we all did.
Yeah, I changed it so many times. I was like, I'm just going to put it in a Word document. Okay, so I kind of went back and forth on how to think about this list. And so this is what I do when people ask me things like, what's your favorite horror movie and what is like your top whatever, what do you like, what, however, you know, people ask those types of questions because I get asked them a lot for obvious reasons. And so what my go-to answer is, I just say whatever comes to my mind because in the moment, that's probably my favorite. So that's kind of what I did with the list. And then I went back and like revamped it. So my first movie is Poltergeist. That one is consistent. That one will always be probably my number one. It's my most influential. Yeah, that's my number one. Poltergeist, the original.
Wait, not Poltergeist, right?
Not poultry.
No, and it's
that's
actually
a movie.
it's really nice to see that movie on the list for a top 10 because that's how good that Poltergeist. No,
I'm trying to get Joe to watch Poltergeist so bad.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I can't.
All right, Gia, you got me, right, Gia? You
Yeah,
watch
I
it.
got you.
But no, Poltergeist.
We'll do a watch party.
You're gonna make me force me to watch this movie? Great.
Oh man.
No,
Poltergeist, classic.
Poltergeist,
Yeah.
to put that on your number one, honestly, much props because it's
Yeah.
really hard to come up with this list, but that is one of the best. And
That
honestly,
movie don't get enough love, bro. You'd be
It
surprised.
really doesn't.
I promise you, if you read the book,
and it's so memorable.
I'm gonna have to now.
if you
I'm
read
gonna
the book had a
Yeah.
couple more spots in it. So when you watch the movie,
I had more
you
time to
could fill
breathe.
you could fill in there what's going on, and there's more going on in
Okay.
your head because you have these characters in your head. So guess what?
Okay.
Your TV in your head are all these characters, and the book is just a little bit more.
Yeah. I actually just met another horror movie YouTuber, and his channel name is Poltergeist Steve because that's like his movie of choice. And it's so funny that you say that never gets love because it doesn't. And then I just randomly met somebody like a week ago that's like their thing. And like his intro is Poltergeist, like the TV and the static and the like it's crazy and it really is a great movie.
So good.
And
So
when you think about like all the stuff that happened around that movie, that makes it even more unsettling. Like, and then of course I'm totally drawing a blank now that I want to say her name. The little girl that played what is her name? Anyway, when she like her whole story and like the fight to not release the third movie after she found like all of that stuff. Because there's an episode of I think it's Cursed Films on Shudder that talks about Poltergeist.
Yes, that movie was fucking cursed like that.
Yes.
There was a whole lot of
100%.
deaths happened on that movie.
Yes.
And
So many
this
bad
is
things.
fascinating, man.
I walk into some places and go, I'm here. Like I literally, I still hear our
Dude,
how long it's been like what 20 years, 30 years.
To this day, the scene when they're in that moat, the corpses float up on top.
Oh, the pool.
Yeah, bro.
Oh yes,
yeah, good shit.
That they still won't tell you a straight yes or no if it was real or not. Because there's like this whole rumor that it was like cheaper to use real skeletons than to like make fake ones.
Yes, I heard about that.
And I'm just like, but they like it's so hard because there's people that say like yes 100%. There's people like no, that's not true. Yeah, I love Polter, and a lot of people say that like their fear of clowns came from the movie It. Mine was Poltergeist.
Poltergeist was the OG on that.
That doll? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was creepy.
Yeah. Oh my god. When he pulled the ball from under the bed.
Absolutely not.
You would not look under your bed.
Absolutely
I
not.
will not sleep in a room that has any kind of fucking doll in there
Hell
because
no.
I don't want to sleep and get pulled down under my bed from a fucking doll.
That's a whole nother level of fear I'm not interested in. Yeah, no. So Poltergeist is my number one. My number two, and this one is actually pretty consistent as well, is actually Monster Project.
Really?
So, and here's a couple reasons why that may help, you sell them to watch this movie. So one of the things, aside from the fact that I obviously like monster movies, I'm a huge fan of found footage. So it combines my two favorite things. And I liked that they went skinwalker versus werewolf because we don't have, first of all, we don't have enough werewolf anything, but we also don't really get the other side of that lore with the shapeshifters and like the, and just the old stories about skinwalkers and what they are and what it means and the cursed way of living. And God, for it to be so low budget, and there are moments where it is low budget, the people they cast for these monsters could not have been better. And it's just, so unsettling. The girl that plays the vampire, oh my God, like she's perfect. So it just is one of those movies that they did so much with so little. And it just impressed me from the first time I've seen. That was one that I literally, like, I rented it on Amazon, I think, to watch it the first time I ever saw it, which was years ago. And then the next day I bought it. Yeah. So my number 3 is Last Man on Earth, 1964.
Vincent Price?
Yes, Vincent Price.
Yes.
Very good.
Wow.
And I read the book before I ever saw the movie. But yeah, I was a big fan of, I love that movie. It's one of my, I watch it multiple times a year. It's one of my favorites. My number 4 is Scream.
Yeah.
I'm a big Scream fan. Big Scream fan. And then I put another slasher like right after this, but my number 5 is You're Next.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
These
That's
guys
a
put
double
me onto
hand.
that.
I was the
Yeah.
one that introduced these
That
two
was
to
Joe.
review it.
Yeah,
that
that
was
was
me. And
Yes,
told them we
Your
gotta do
Next
this.
is like, Erin is my favorite final
Thank
girl.
you.
She is my
Best-
number 1. Love
Best
her.
Final girl.
Joe said the
She's
same
phenomenal.
thing.
Mhm.
She's so great. I love her so much.
That's where I want to be.
Yeah, I know. If I was, when I grow up, that's where I want to be. And then my number 6 was 28 Days Later. My number 7, because I had to put an alien movie on here, is The Fourth Kind with Mia,
Oh, that's a good movie.
Jovovich.
Good movie.
Jovovich.
Yeah, very good movie.
My number 8 is The Blair Witch Project, because that one's super influential. That's
Yep.
like my intro to found
Yeah,
footage.
yes. I mean, that was the grandfather.
So good. Yeah, I love that one. And then my number 9 is Priest with Paul Bettany. You
Okay.
guys seen that one?
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The old lady always creeps me out in that.
Yeah, she does.
Wow.
All little babies go to hell. Yeah, she's nuts. She is nuts. Okay, so number 10 was the Wolfman remake 2010 with Benicio del Toro.
Yes.
That's a good one too.
It is.
Yeah, I like that one better than the original. Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, Hugo Weaving, Benicio del Toro. Like, what more could you ask?
That's right.
for?
Wow,
And
what
it's
a
werewolf
cast.
movie.
I know. Nice.
So
nice.
good.
When you sit back and think about it, like, that's a cast.
That is a
man.
good cast.
So good. And Benicio del Toro, I will literally watch anything that he's in. Yeah. So that's my list for now
Wow.
today.
Pretty good list.
It's always good to hear other people's lists because you get a sense of the stuff they're into and what they like.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're all over the place as far as, well, not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you get the classics and you got films that are newer, but people don't give enough respect to. You
Credit
know?
to.
Like Priest, for example, came out in a time when the market was so saturated with films like that. And
Mhm.
it's just one of those films that went under the radar. Came
It did.
and it went. And I think when people will discover it on video later,
Yep.
video, I'm aging myself now. On streaming platforms.
VHS.
On YouTube. They'll
Yeah.
find it on YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah, good call. All right, that's gonna do it for tonight. 3 Corners of Horror. Thank you again. Huge shout out to Angel. Please give her a shout. Subscribe to her channel, Voices from the Mausoleum. We're gonna put the link in the description, so check it out. If you love horror, just like we do, we're horror fiends. We got that good shit, and so does Angel. So please support horror. Support 3
Yeah.
Corners as well. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week on 3 Corners of Horror. Once again, stay scared. Peace.
This house is clean.